You probably don't listen to company earnings calls very often. The CEO's words may matter as much as the numbers.
The leader has to believe the message that they're giving.
Talk a little bit about the role AI played.
We can extract repeatable signals of performance under pressure. They can interpret what's being communicated in the context.
When the CEO speaks, people listen. Hi, I'm Jill Wiltfong, Chief Marketing Officer for Korn Ferry, and this is Briefings, our deep dive into topics that corporate leaders need to care about. Unless you're a Wall Street analyst or an anchor on CNBC, you probably don't listen to company earnings calls very often. And if those calls do get noticed, it's typically when there's been a surprise metric that either boosts a firm's fortunes upwards or sends them spiraling down. But it turns out that the CEO's words on those calls may matter as much as the numbers. Building on external research data, Korn Ferry has identified 8 key leadership dimensions that distinguish high-performing CEOs from those who underperform. CEOs who scored highly on these dimensions led companies with an average 12% higher stock growth than industry peers. On the flip side, those who scored low saw 15% lower growth. That's a striking 27 percentage point performance gap. And get this, on one of the dimensions, external awareness, CEOs who were weak in that area were 5 times more likely to be underperforming compared to those who were strong. These findings should, of course, intrigue company leaders, and they may be even more relevant now during this time of geopolitical uncertainty in the Middle East, when the right or wrong words could have an outsized impact on a company's performance. Because when the CEO speaks, people listen. Before we start, if you're watching us on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know your thoughts on this topic. I am joined now by 2 guests, Guanrong Day, Senior Director of Research at the Korn Ferry Institute, and Jamin Graves, Global Leader of CEO Enterprise Leadership Development. Both are well-versed in CEO communications from their years spent researching and working with top company leaders. Gentlemen, it's great to have you on here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so before we jump into the details, let me just ask both of you, how much do you think people really listen to earnings calls from beginning to end?
Generally speaking, and from what I see, a lot of folks look at the transcripts after the fact and hone in on the Q&A, some of the more important aspects.
I totally agree. I don't think people really listen to the earnings call end to end, and at least not the general public.
Let's talk a little bit about that more, Guanrong. You, in your research that you led for the Korn Ferry Institute, it says that it's introducing this kind of new way of evaluating CEO leadership. Talk a little bit about what makes this method so different than other more established approaches that are used to assess company leaders. What did you guys look into here?
When we collect and analyze multiple earnings call transcripts, we can extract repeatable signals of performance under pressure and identify relative stable pattern in how a leader behave and communicate in real time. So therefore, it complements very well traditional methodology by grounding the evaluation in observable real-world behaviors.
Interesting. And you've said that AI and large language models really enabled you to do this study in a way that would have previously been far more difficult. Talk a little bit about the role AI played in enabling you to analyze these calls in this way.
Before the AI, doing this kind of context-sensitive text analysis requires tremendous effort of manual coding and hand-built rules. But AI changed all that in a trend of massive data sets across many domains like psychology, politics, finance, and management. They can interpret what's being communicated in the context.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And it's amazing what we're able to do now with technology. Jamin, it sounds almost scary to think that AI can be used to analyze a leader's every word and then predict a company's future off of that. Does that change how you advise leaders to speak nowadays? Should they be running all their speeches through AI for feedback before going live? Or, what are you talking to, and how are you coaching leaders today around this?
Some of those filters around AI are getting incorporated, but the coaching that we do at the top, and I prep a lot of CEOs for their earning calls. At the end of the day, and this you can't do through AI. The leader, the CEO, has to believe the message that they're giving. The CEO has to truly see this is the angle that is important for us to share, to project hope, to project what's possible. And that is something the AI can't really do.
I'm making you money. And lest we forget, that's the only reason any of you became stockholders in the first place. You want to make money. You don't care if they manufacture wire and cable, fry chicken, or grow tangerines. You want to make money.
That's a scene from the movie Other People's Money, where Danny DeVito gives an impassioned, rousing speech to stockholders. And it's interesting. A decade-long study of Scandinavian firms' earning calls actually found that companies with positively toned calls, something that you mentioned, Jamin, saw share prices increase 2.7% on the day of the release, while those with negative sentiment had 1.9% decline. But of course, sometimes the news that leaders have to share isn't always positive. So Jamin, when you're coaching CEOs on this, how do you get them to make a good impression, even if they're sharing bad news?
The tone matters tremendously. So even if the message is negative, we have headwinds, we had a crisis, we lost to a competitor, and whatever the case may be, the CEO needs to be able to articulate that they could anticipate that. There's a plan in place, and there's confidence for the future. The outlook is where the CEO projects positive while accepting the reality that the company is in. And if you can do that, it creates confidence, reassurance across the shareholders.
We mentioned up top how right now in particular, leaders may be pressed for their thoughts on difficult things. The conflict in the Middle East is a really good example. How should CEOs respond if things like that come up in earnings calls? Is that where you get back to outlook and really focus on kind of what's next?
So this comes up quite a bit. There's been so many topics that CEOs are facing and dealing with in the media, in the press, and our social media communicates at lightning speed what's on the public's mind. And they do care, and they're interested in what is the CEO's perspective on this. But during an earnings call, we just remind CEOs the purpose of that call is to talk about the performance and the future of the company. So to the extent that a conflict in the Middle East, for example, that we're facing right now is germane to their business, then it's something you can address in business terms.
Ron, stepping back even further a bit, over the past few years, there've been a lot of major disruptions that CEOs have been facing, from multiple wars to tariffs, and of course before that even the pandemic. Do you think dealing with all of these past challenges have put CEOs in a better position today to respond to stakeholders than maybe they were before? They've had a lot of practice.
I think the honest answer is for some CEO, yes, but not automatically for everyone. I think the pressure can cut both ways. It can also push leaders into overly scripted, overly polished answers that feel less transparent. And when leaders lean too hard on the prepared language to step aside, to sidestep tough questions, Mark tend to pick up on that.
Jamin, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
I think the authenticity and the candor with which a CEO or anyone on the executive team is speaking is critical. This is building credibility over time, and that's what we remind CEOs. It's not just one earnings call that you're in. You're in a series of them. So what's the narrative you're building? That candor needs to feel consistent one call to the next.
Guanrong, leave us with a final word of advice. Your research identifies external awareness as one of these 8 leadership dimensions that can set top performers apart from underperformers by a big factor, a factor of 5. So tell us, what is external awareness specifically, and what can leaders do to improve theirs?
In practical terms, external awareness is how well you are aware what is happening outside of the company. The competitive moves, macro conditions, industry dynamics, broader societal and geopolitical shifts. But it's not more than just what you see. It's what matters is how you interpret. And what does it mean? What does it mean for your business?
Thank you so much. It'll be very interesting to start looking at leaders through this new lens. Thanks for being here. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Leadership. I'm Rupak Bhattacharya, and here's a quick look at what else is happening in business.
AI has the potential to transform and accelerate your learning.
Following a year in which worker access to AI grew by 50%, firms are increasingly measuring employees' use of AI and tying that usage to promotions and salary increases. It appears to be part of a push from companies to get employees to make use of firms' massive investments in AI. However, experts caution that pushing employees to use AI by linking it to their performance may be a bit of an over-rotation.
Sometimes patients attend hospital for surgery and return home the same day.
Surgery and then off to home you go? That's right. Outpatient visits for surgeries are expected to grow by 8% annually over the next 5 years, while hospital stays will decline by 1%. While cost may be a factor, medical officials point to the decades of data demonstrating that a patient's risk of infection or adverse events increases for each night they spend in the hospital.
What exactly makes cobots so special?
While AI agents grab the headlines and humanoid robots capture the imagination, cobots, robots designed to work collaboratively alongside humans, are quietly becoming a major force in business. Cobots are among the fastest growing segments of the overall robotics market, and one study found they helped humans increase productivity by 85%. Eventually, however, experts say cobots may indeed be supplanted by fully humanoid robots. For more insights from This Week in Leadership, head to kornferry.com/insights.
The executive producer of Briefings is Jonathan Dahl. Today's episode was produced by Rupak Bhattacharya and Zachary Dorr, and it was edited by Jaron Henry McRae. It contains reporting by Russell Perlman, Ariane Cohen, and Peter Loria. Our video segment contains original artwork by Fraser Milton, Haley Kennel, Jonathan Pink, and Sasha Kotschik. And our web operations are managed by Ed McLaurin. Don't forget to read our magazine, available at newsstands and at kornferry.com/briefings. That's it for Korn Ferry Briefings. I'm Jill Wiltfong. See you next time.
To what extent is that conflict, realistically?
I think we have to start over.
That's fine.